Ladies and gentlemen, um, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome, of course, to um, Saturday afternoon's main event. I hate having to do these all the time. And it's like, as much as it may be short term that we may have to do these, and it's not like it always happens every other week, but it's like the more that I sit there, it's like the people that I grew up fondly on are passing away. And it's like just streamlined down to so many where it goes from funk to rotunda to Mongo McMichael. And here it is today that I have to sit here and speak on this very historic individual. The way that professional wrestling was perceived to me was always good, bad, heel, babyface. I will be able to sit there and distinguish two individuals by the way their character was portrayed within the ropes of a wrestling ring. And significantly, that all changed when I had sat down one day, and like many of these stories, it happened with me going ahead and taking a VHS out of my lengthy amount of cassettes. And the cassette that I chose was ECW One Night Stand 2006. For many, that show was synonymous with the fact that Rob Van Dam had won the WWE title away from one John Cena. But for me, it was distinguished as the fact that this was at a point where I didn't go ahead and distinguish somebody as a heel or a babyface. I just distinguished them as one crazy SOB. And the person that I'm talking about is, of course, the homicidal, suicidal, death-defying maniac known to all as Sabu. Sabu was one game changer for professional wrestling. Sabu was a icon within the business when it comes to hardcore. See, many speak about hardcore. They speak about Terry Funk. They speak about Mick Foley. Individuals go ahead and go the farthest route of speaking about Raven or Tommy Dreamer or Sandman. But then you sit there and you think about Sabu and you're like, okay, now this MFer, he's different. I remember I sat there and I watched that gory barbed wire match that he had with Terry Funk. And I sat there as an 8-year-old and I was just captivated, not only due to the fact that they were literally trying to kill each other, but because of the fact that these guys wouldn't quit. As much as the same goes for Terry Funk, it still goes as the case for Sabu, because throughout whatever this man did, peeps, you can attest to this, he never quit. He would continue to go with crazy spot after crazy spot, insane match after insane match. Didn't matter how high the risks were, he would want to continue to take them. Why? You would think it's because of his love for professional wrestling. Yes, that's a part of it. But then, of course, the goal for every professional wrestler, to entertain. Sabu wrestled his last match during WrestleMania weekend this year. As a 60-year-old, you would think that he didn't have to do it. But he wanted to. In a match where so much happened and none of that needed to happen, to where we've had to later find out that he wasn't 100% going into the match. We had to find out in certain instances that he took kratom to at least better himself performance-wise within the ring to hold up against one Joey Janela during that GCW show. Still, no matter what the obstacles were, no matter what the risks were, Sabu wanted to entertain. And that was the person that I knew as Sabu. That was the professional wrestler that I was beknowings to. And once more in the world of professional wrestling, we lost another great. We lost another icon. We lost another professional wrestler who captivated as a professional wrestler. And he will definitely be missed, not only amongst his peers, but amongst the fans of this glorious God-given sport known as professional wrestling. And as I pass it on to my co-host here at Peeps Nage, I have one thing left to say. RIP to the homicidal, suicidal, death-defying maniac known as Sabu. Peeps, the floor is yours.
Yes, it's always a somber, sad moment when we talk about the wrestlers of our past joining the great beyond, especially when at such a young age, at 60, where we talk about how in the grand scheme of things, some people look at 60 as old. 60 is rather young in the world of professional wrestling. 60 years old, there are some wrestlers that are out there that are still giving input to the wrestling business.
Yeah.
Michael Cole is, I believe, 60 or at least 61, somewhere in that age range. So to give you an idea of the age range of what Sabu has done, and through the better part of over 40 years, he's given of in and of himself, his body and his soul. One of the things that I think encapsulates what Sabu brought. You mentioned his match with Terry Funk, where he literally was bathed in a bed of barbed wire. And during that match, he completely severed his biceps tendon in his left arm. And something that you would think would probably say, you know what, maybe we should end the match right now. No. You know what he did? He rolled out of the ring. He grabbed some tape and taped his arm closed and wrestled the rest of the match with a torn biceps tendon. That's how dedicated Sabu was to the business. And throughout his travails in the business, from his earlier days in FMW, being trained by his uncle, the original Sheik Ed Farhat, who ironically they just did a story on Dark Side of the Ring of just earlier this week. It's kind of weird how these kinds of stories have a lot of weird synergy involved in, well, nobody knew what was going to happen. And then as it happened, you get a little more background into Sabu. He was trained by his uncle, the original Sheik. And from what Sabu had explained, the reason why he wanted to become a wrestler is because his father was somewhat abusive. And he wanted to be able to be a wrestler because he saw what his uncle did. And his uncle would kind of check his father, kind of beat him up, and then told him, you're going to train with me. You're going to be away from everybody for a year, but you're going to actually be a pretty good wrestler. And he went into FMW, where he got that evolution of what the original Sheik's essence was, which was violent, bloody, hardcore, pretty much the progenitor for what most people look at as hardcore wrestling. Stayed in FMW for a while, came to ECW, came to the States, went to WCW for a small amount of time. And ironically, when he went to WCW, he brought his uncle, the original Sheik, as his manager. And there you started to see what he was, which was that evolution of being homicidal, suicidal, genocidal, death-defying, being the guy that was doing aerial maneuvers while at the same time putting his body through the equivalent of a car accident every week, every match, bleeding buckets and pints of blood, and giving the fans what they actually wanted. And then from there, going into ECW once again, and being a tag team champion, once with the Taz, which was now Taz, the Tasmaniac back then. And then, of course, we all know his more famous tag team partner was Rob Van Dam. And RVD and Sabu had those tag team championships for quite some time, all maintaining a gimmick where he did not utter a word. And it really wasn't up until recently that he started talking. So we know the impact of Sabu. We know what he brought to the business. We know his importance to the business, but we also know how much he loved the business. And it's sad that the last match we got with Sabu, he was in the state that he was in. And I think a lot of people are really upset over that. But I choose to remember the great things that he brought to this business, the utter maniacal things that he did to himself and his opponents over the years. And I will choose to remember all of those. His matches with Terry Funk, his matches with Chris Benoit, and with Taz, and all of the other matches he's had over the years. I will remember those and his impact to this business to this day that will probably never be duplicated or replicated by anyone else, period. He was one of one. And that's exactly what we see of Sabu, Terry Brunk, who at the age of 60, gone from this wrestling business and from our lives way too soon.
Indeed, peeps. What's more, to the family and friends of Sabu, we just wish you all the very best. And here on saying something that we haven't had to do in a very long time, we will go ahead and administer the 10-bell salute for one homicidal, suicidal, genocidal, death-defying maniac known as Sabu. So just a moment of silence for the 10-bell salute. Thank you, guys. With that being said, that marks the end of this tribute. And we will go ahead and go straight into Saturday afternoon's main event. So stay tuned. Do not go anywhere, because the real show, same, is definitely coming up right now.
We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you know what? I just have to pull my favorite Stephen A. impression, my greatest Stephen A. impression. We don't go ahead and do sports here on Saturday afternoon main event. My New York Knicks are going to the Eastern Conference Finals. Orange and blue skies, ladies and gentlemen. The first time in my lifetime, I actually get to say that. We're about to spank the Pacers in 6, right in our city, and go straight on to the NBA Finals. And I'm not going to go ahead and be like Stephen A. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to be like Stephen A. Smith, who has a parking lot for her forehead. I'm going to go ahead and just strictly be like the Knicks fan who just wants God to bless us with just one. Just one. But you know what? I digress. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to episode 21 of the phenomenon known to mankind this Saturday afternoon's main event. Whether you are dumb, stupid, blind, or just plain irrelevant and you still don't know who the hell I am, I suggest you go back to school, go into your local library, get the biggest dictionary you can find, preferably Merriam-Webster, and look me up under the word phenomenal. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is out of phenomenal one. And here on Same, I'm not joined alone because, of course, I have my co-host, my brother from another mother and dimension. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I have the limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun, who is not having a hard time holding his alligators down. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, allow me to introduce to you my co-host, my brother from another mother, the one and only. You know what? Better yet, give him 2 claps and a peep snage.
Woo! Yeah, that was a really good opening. High energy, really up there. I wonder where the energy came from. Did it have something to do with the Knicks winning yesterday? Yes, I don't know. Indeed. Yes.
I know you're happy. So, you know what?
Yes, and
fun fact for you guys, ladies and gentlemen. Peeps Nature's birthday in 1994 fell on the same day that the Knicks had lost the NBA title.
Yes.
Insane. So listen,
yeah.
Peeps is happy. He's just trying to contain it. But
yes. Let's try to let's hopefully I'll try to rein it in, and we'll put that energy back into the show with the 3 tenets that we always give you, which is laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. How about that?
Absolutely, Peace. I agree wholeheartedly, 100%. So look, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Saturday afternoon's main event. Whether you are joining us on YouTube, whether you're joining us on Twitch, whether you're joining us on Twitter, we appreciate you guys. We thank you for the support. You want to keep on going with that? All you got to do is follow us on all social media platforms. Instagram being at Saturday afternoons _ main event. Twitter/X being at Saturday main. TikTok being at Saturday afternoons ME. And of course, Twitch and YouTube being just the name of the show, Saturday afternoon's main event. But with that being said, peeps, we won't go ahead and stray away from anything sooner or later. We're going to go ahead and get straight into the show. Being that when you hear this sound, it's time for one thing and one thing only. Peeps, brace yourself because, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is time for Wrestling Crash Course. And as we sit here, Peeps, you okay?
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. That was a seismic one. There we go.
Seismic indeed. But look, with that being said, we have a comment here on YouTube today, and it comes from none other than the one and only Uncle Triple C. He says, "Go New York, go!" Orange and blue skies in the fellowship of professional wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. How great is this? But shout out to Uncle Triple C. Look, with that being said, Wrestling Crash Course, first order of news today. Of course, we have been hearing within the last couple of days that JR has revealed that he unfortunately has colon cancer. JR with a wide history of health issues and health scares that he's had within the last couple of months, years, to be at that since the passing of his wife, Jen. God bless her soul. Now with JR having this, it seems that he will be going ahead and going away for a while just to go ahead and take care of this. JR being the person that he is, we've always seen him go ahead and fight through all diagnoses. He had a tumor, I remember, within his leg, around his foot area, and he got taken care of that. And I won't forget, he was stronger than a bed of nails. The man wouldn't go ahead and die down. He went ahead and carried straight on and moved forward with everything in life as he always would, without no problem. And he just seemed fearless. Within this sense, I feel that he will go ahead and do great. and carry through this as well. JR, we support you. We're behind you as fans of this great sport of professional wrestling, and Godspeed, and we hope that all will be well in the next couple of months into years. Who knows how long it may take for chemo and radiation and any type of therapy that you might have to go ahead and take. But within all, we support you, man.
Yes,
Peeps,
we just want you to get better. We just want it's for all of the criticism that JR has piled on over the last maybe couple of years about, oh, he's not the same JR, etc. Of course he's not the same JR. He's not the same guy that he was 15, 20 years ago calling really, really good matches. But yet at the same time, we also know it's an evolution of, as you just get older, certain things aren't as good as they once were. But at the same time, JR, the person, we are all rooting for. We want him to get healthy. He's had a rough, say, 5 or so years. Like you just talked about. Bouts of skin cancer. The tragic loss of his wife. And right now, going through this diagnosis, and then, of course, the Bell's palsy that he's been dealing with for a good amount of his adult life. Right now, we just want Jim Ross to get healthy, to be back, and I'd like to see him back on Dynamite at some point when he's healthy enough to be able to call matches. You've seen over the last couple of years, he's kind of reeled back his role calling matches for AEW, and because of his health and because of his age and availability, he's kind of toned that down some. So hopefully we'll see him back on TV when he's healthy, soon, and raring to go again.
Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly, peeps. From there, we move to the world of WWE, and from JR, we move to JC. And as in JC, yes, I'm talking about Jeff Cobb, ladies and gentlemen, but unfortunately, his new name, JC Mateo. Why do they do this to us, peeps? Why?
This sounds like the name of a bank teller when I go to the bank. Good Lord. JC Mateo. Okay.
Hello, Mr. Mateo. I will be withdrawing $200 today. Please take it off my pocket.
I understand WWE and they trademark names for a wrestler so that if they have their own name, they don't run afoul of the same instance that happened with Jesse Ventura, who trademarked his own name, and now anything that happens, they got to pay that man. So if they're going to go ahead and bring somebody in, very rarely do we get a wrestler that has their own name and can keep it without the issues that go along with trademarking and branding, etc. So Jeff Cobb's been wrestling for at least 15 years. I would have thought he would have wanted to keep his name if he could, but they kept his initials. Same with AJ Styles. He's able to keep his wrestling name, but we all know his name is Alan Jones. That's where the AJ part comes in. So yeah, if that's the case, yeah, but JC Mateo, really? Yeah.
I don't know if it's just to add some type of Polynesian background to it, I guess, but it's just like, still, why?
It just sounds really generic. It sounds like something that you would run through a name generator online. That's what it sounds like.
You know what? A lot of people would say if he wasn't talked about in the way that he's talked about today, people would have said that Vince's stench is all over this, but we can't blame Vince this time around, right? So it's like, what is that?
I really do wonder who actually came up with the name.
Def Rebel? I mean, they come up with the stupid music, so I mean, I would only suggest that, maybe, just maybe.
So his music is gonna come out as JC. Oh, good. I can picture it now.
Don't let that
I'll talk about it, and it'll probably end up happening. So there you go.
Exactly, peeps. Mouth shut. Throw away the key, man. But look, from there we move to another person who is prominently a part of the SmackDown's roster now. And when I say SmackDown's roster, I mean the SmackDown's women's roster. Ladies and gentlemen, behold, Beautiful Madness is now a part of the SmackDown women's roster. A roster that is already stacked, I may tell you. Okay? I'm just keeping it $150 here. Yes. Charlotte Flair, Jade Cargill, Naomi. Now you add Giulia in the mix. Yes. Alexa Bliss, Zelina Vega, Chelsea Green, peeps, what are they doing over there? What is it that they're trying to conclude with? Because I may say that Giulia has to go ahead and win Money in the Bank. That's just me. I'm just saying, I can't see it any other way.
Just got another 3 weeks? 3 weeks or so, because we got Saturday night's main event next week. As you have heard me say on this show, along with Chris, where we talk about the women's division on this show, I've been saying that the women's division has been the backbone of the WWE for quite a number of years. Yeah. And the way that it, especially on NXT, they seem to have been using the women's division so much so to prop up the show that they are main eventing the women's division, main eventing shows, not just on regular TV, but in some instances on premium live events. So that shows you how strong the women's roster is in WWE. And I will continue to say it, that it is the backbone of the WWE. And the way that they are doing this is by getting the prominent names that you see, all the ones that you've named, and now Giulia moving to SmackDown, knowing that she brings recognition, seriousness, and legitimacy to the SmackDown women's roster.
Absolutely. But peeps, just saying, do you believe that within the next coming months, Giulia's having a women's title on her? Let's just keep it above 50 here. Like, do you see it?
I can see it by the end of the year. I mean, she was fast-tracked to the NXT Women's Championship before she lost it. So I can see that happening. I just don't think they want to hotshot a women's championship just yet. But I can see it happening by the end of the year.
Got you. Okay, then no problem. From there, we move to the free agent side of things. And when I say free agent side of things, I mean entrepreneurial side of things. When I say entrepreneurship and when I say free agent side of things, I mean old timers. And when I say old timers, I mean the old timers that you only wish stayed old timers. Ladies and gentlemen, one Hulk Hogan wants to go ahead and save Hooters. No longer professional wrestling, Hooters. Yes, guys, the place with, the women who serve you wings with the freakishly large bosoms. Yes, Hooters. Hulk Hogan wants to buy and own Hooters. Peeps. I know. I see the look on your face. I don't know what to say to this. I genuinely don't. Knowing that Hooters was one of the places that sponsored Real American Beer.
I have to say this. I have to say this the way Booker T used to say his name when he was King Booker. Hulk Hogan wants to save Hooters. This is nothing more than a cross-brand Real American Beer upshot to get Hogan's name, etc., whoever else he wants to get involved with this. A way to get their beer in places that it normally probably wouldn't get there. How do you rebrand Hooters with Hulk Hogan's name attached to it? Why would you want to rebrand Hooters with Hulk Hogan's name attached to it? Why would you want to even drink Hulk Hogan's beer? But I digress.
I would rather drink a case of Woo Energy and smoke Ric Flair's weed, or I drink American beer, or be associated with Hooters in any way, shape, or form.
Oh
Peeps.
Boy.
I digress.
That's 4 I digresses right now. So that should tell you something.
Good grief.
Is it just me? This is an observation. Does it seem to me that at least once every 4 weeks we've got a new Hogan story that just makes you question how we all became Hulk Hogan fans, knowing who he is and what he's become?
Well, I mean, knowing what he is and who he's become, peeps, it's not really up for question. The real question that you have to ask yourself is what you gonna do when the dual 20 deflated inch pythons and the women who serve stupid ratchet wings run wild on you. Let me stop.
Yes. Yeah. That apparently that works for him, brother.
Funny how he doesn't book himself into a corner with that, but I digress once more. Ladies and
We're
gentlemen,
at 5 already, man. It's that kind of show, folks.
It is, ladies and gentlemen, it is. But with that being said, that marks the end of Wrestling Crash Course, ladies and gentlemen, here on Saturday afternoon's main event. If you want to keep up with all the latest social media news and updates in the world of professional wrestling, all you got to do is one thing and one thing only. Follow us on Instagram at Saturday Afternoons_main event. And follow us on Twitter at Saturday Main, alongside TikTok at Saturday Afternoons ME. So with that being said, peeps, before we go ahead and get into break, I want to go ahead and hear the ratings because we have some great news. Peeps, floor is yours.
Check this out. I've been talking for weeks and weeks and weeks ad nauseum as to what AEW needs to do to get themselves on top of NXT. Well, pluck my feathers and call me baldy. This is exactly what happened. NXT this past week did 664,000 with a 0.15 in the demo. AEW Dynamite, just one day after, did 682,000 with a demo of 0.17. They, for the first time in 25 weeks, have beaten NXT in the ratings. Now, as we talk about this, we have to wonder what the breakdown was, and I'll try to look into that. Maybe by next week, I'll get the quarter hours and see what they did. But it's good to know that their average that they've been keeping has not deviated much over the last couple of weeks. So they're keeping it steady now. And they got almost to 700,000. So that's really, really good for their product to keep that going. The sickos, the ones that are the true diehard AEW fans, they came out. I don't know how many newer fans or casual fans watch the show. And we obviously don't know what the max numbers are, because that's one of the things that we always try to glean out of these ratings is how much is it from on their end, who's watching it digitally, away from conventional viewing habits of television, and who is doing it through an app, a tablet, their phone, etc. So until we really learn all of that, we can only speculate. But I will say, for the first time since November of last year, AEW beat NXT in the ratings.
So in the words of Michael Cole, the streak is over.
Yes, the streak is over.
Wow, peeps! It took 25 weeks, but finally it's turning in the right direction. Although we won't talk about the finish of that steel cage match, because what does Gabe Kidd have to? I digress.
Gabe Kidd, not only Gabe Kidd, but also even before that, just for a small amount of time before we head to our break. What specifically did you think of Dynamite as far as they had a world title match in the cage? We had the booking of another match for Double or Nothing. We had Hurt Syndicate business. We had some things happen on Dynamite.
Now look, when it comes down to me, right? I'm happy to see MJF get the double thumbs up.
Yes.
He is finally a part of the Hurt Syndicate. He hurts people now, ladies and gentlemen, okay?
Yes.
He's not just better than you and you know it. He hurts people.
Yes.
Phenomenal. Zing. But
there you go.
When it comes down to, a build up towards, of course, Double or Nothing, which is next week, you have to sit there and plausibly think about, Anarchy in the Arena, right? And when I sit there and think, look, it seems as if the fact that Gabe Kidd kind of implemented himself into helping Moxley win back the AEW title within that match on Dynamite this past week, I would just have to guess that, look, it seems like maybe the Bucks, Mox, Kidd, and Shafir versus, I guess, Swerve, Willow, Omega, Joe, and maybe Hobbs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I genuinely sit there and I just think, and they have one more week. Genuinely, they have one more week to go ahead and build towards this. We all know Anarchy in the Arena is going to go ahead and end the show. Of course, there isn't going to be no AEW title match because why? The AEW champion is in Anarchy in the Arena. So what's the whole point of going ahead and having an AEW world title match? So move all that from there.
I'm pretty sure Chris is going to lose his mind with that one. Yes.
I think they start playing stupid music during this. They actually do good sometimes with the music selection during the matches.
Yes.
So I mean, I can't be mad at that fully, but still within one sense. Look, MJF being a part of the Hurt Syndicate. Of course, that pretty much happened within the sense of Gabe Kidd within that match. Them pulling off 682,000 viewers was just A1. For me, I really thought this episode of Dynamite it wasn't lackluster. It wasn't bad. It was good. Genuinely, the show was good. I felt that the pacing was okay. When it comes down to AEW pacing and when it comes down to show structure.
The production in the beginning of the show was weird, though. Because remember, as the show started, they kept cutting to the picture-in-picture for like the first 2 minutes of the show. So the picture-in-picture was there, and it would go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. That's a production truck thing. But those are the kinds of things that people are going to look at if they're nitpicking as something that's different from what you would see in WWE.
Absolutely. But for me, it's just like I sit there and I look at like the show structure, and it was just like, okay, look, they started off with what? Ospreay and Paige versus the Don Callis family. And from what I heard, that with that lead in, it drew in like what, 732,000 viewers?
Yes.
With like the demo being 0.18. So it wasn't as bad. Still, for me, I just look at the story when it comes down to, Ospreay, when it comes down to Paige. And when you sit there, you look at it, and Ospreay's been talking about, headlining and going after the AEW world title, yet, he's kind of like in these like, little mini feuds still against the Don Callis family, still having beef with Kyle Fletcher alongside Heyman Adam Page, who, of course, should be in a world title picture, right? Am I wrong for saying that, peeps? It's like you sit there, you got to look at things, and it's like, okay, like structure-wise, they're putting the best stars on the show. Not a problem. But then when you think about it, where's the true story? Here we just implemented Gabe Kidd out of nowhere. Now Gabe Kidd's going to be on the show next week. That's not a problem, but it's just like, where is the true divinity of, okay, here's this, here's that, here's why he's here. We're not going to question it until next week and just pop him up on TV and just be like, oh, look, Gabe Kidd.
Which makes no sense. It makes no sense. If they did a job of explaining why he did it, if they did it 2 weeks ago, if they did it 3 weeks ago, his association, maybe he's friends with Mox, maybe he aligns himself with the idea of what Mox is doing with the Death Riders. Maybe he's part of the Death Riders as a substitute because we know that Pac is going to be injured for quite some time. Who knows? But they didn't address that. And the pay-per-view is next Sunday. So we'll see how they do with that.
Indeed. Well, look, with that being said, that marks the end of the first half of Same, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, we're going to go ahead and get into our questions. And then, of course, our last topic for today's show, our review of last week's WWE Backlash. So stay tuned. Do not go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, because the second half of Same is coming up next. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the second half of Saturday afternoon's main event. Of course, I, the phenomenal one. Alongside me is the one and only Peep Station. We're here for laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. Look, of course, we have seen the comments. Corey Richmond's in the house. He says, go New York, go New York, go. We have an onslaught of New York Knicks fans in the cut. Happy to see that we went ahead and made history last night against the Boston Celtics. Ah, peeps. Isn't it just great to sit there and think that we finally have a team doing something in the city?
Yeah. For a change, yes.
For a change.
Yes.
It feels rejuvenating. I feel like I can jump off a cliff.
Please don't.
Not literally. Okay,
Yeah.
guys, don't take that to heart. But look,
Yes.
we're gonna go ahead and get into our questions here on Saturday afternoon's main event. Of course, these are our favorite part of the show. You want to go ahead and be a part of the show yourself? All you got to do is one thing and one thing only. DM us a question on Instagram at Saturday afternoons _ main event. And in the words of the wrestling god, WWE Hall of Famer JBL, I guarantee it will be on the next episode of the show. Now, look, first one comes from Master Sean 007. He says, "Greetings, gentlemen. First off, congratulations on the New York Knicks advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals. Knicks in 6. I mean, good grief, babes! Knicks are a topic on a wrestling podcast.
Yes. Go figure.
I love it.
Yes.
Secondly, with Owen Hart's tragic passing coming up soon, would you guys like to share any memories you have of him? Please, would you like to go ahead and go first with that?
Yeah, I was a huge Owen Hart fan. Owen, when the first time that a lot of people got a chance to see Owen away from Calgary Stampede Wrestling when he was in the WWE, his first stint was when he teamed up with Coco Beware as a tag team called High Energy. I think a lot of people can kind of remember that being the first time that they really kind of got a chance to see how Owen Hart was on regular North American television outside of Canada. I think for those that know about Owen in the locker room, the stories that I've heard of him being a guy that was a jokester, did a lot of ribbing, a lot of pranks, was a lighthearted soul, that kind of thing. But his matches were, as we hear Bret Hart and a lot of other wrestlers and Jim Cornette and even Chris, our co-host, will talk about, is that the way you put matches together and talk about how believable they are. Owen was one of those type of people that made his matches, just like what Bret did, believable, because there was that athleticism there. We know that Owen could do all the aerial stuff, but at the same time, we knew that his matches were going to be impeccable. The matches that he's had with Tiger Mask, the matches that I've seen him have with Chris Benoit, other matches he's had with his own brother Bret, we know those kinds of things are what I remember mostly of Owen Hart. And I think that a lot of people that knew Owen, as far as watch his craft and watch what he did, they're going to remember all of those things that he did in ring that are missed today, which was actually a progenitor for a lot of the matches that we see in other wrestling promotions today.
Indeed. For me, I have to say, fondest memory of Owen Hart. Peeps, I think you would remember, these words, enough is enough, and it's time for a
change. Yes.
Oh man, Nation of Domination, Owen Hart. That's what I was much more fond of because, of course, like I said, VHS stacked upon VHS of the Attitude Era. That's what I grew up around. So, of course, seeing Owen Hart, on the colors of the Nation of Domination and be a part of that group while being that, Rock saying it's not about race anymore and it's about respect and all of that good stuff. And it was just like, okay, seeing that kind of tide shift with Owen Hart where it was just like, okay, him just trying to go ahead and make more of himself wherever he was put. And it was like, no matter where you put Owen Hart, he fit. It was like OJ in that glove. Well, not like OJ in that glove, but you get the point. You get the point. But understandably so, you had those times of Owen Hart. Him winning King of the Ring. I have to say his match against Bret at Mania 10. That's another big one that, is honestly, still talked about to this day, of course, because the sense of psychology and storytelling within that match was just fun and it was great. Like I said, Owen, you just put him anywhere and it worked. It genuinely worked because he was just so versatile within professional wrestling that it was like no matter if it was within promo cutting, whether it was in ring ability, he was what his tag team name used to be. Indeed, high energy. Genuinely, that's just how it was. So once more, recipes to Owen Hart. Still feel as if he should still be here to this day. I feel that we should have been singing his praises constantly. Probably having a retirement match literally in late early 2000s. That's what it should have been. Unfortunate that that's not the case. But still, when you think about all these things that we're talking about here, it's like, look, his memory still lives on. And, that's what we are fond of as professional wrestling fans, knowing that we still get to relive those moments of Owen Hart in our heads. And in our hearts.
Owen, King of Hearts.
King of Hearts. Indeed.
2-time Slammy winner. Remember? Also, remember, I am not a nugget. Remember that? Yes. The feud with Shawn Michaels. Oh boy, it was crazy those days.
Big brother, I'm still better than you. Oh man.
Yes.
Rest up.
Yes.
But still within this sense, we're gonna go ahead and move to a YouTube question that we have here from Jadinator Productions. He says, "What do you gentlemen think will be the ending scenario to Cena versus R-Truth? By the way, I pray the Knicks get to the chip, but if NYC wins the NBA Finals, New York might look like Gotham City." Peeps, how many of these Knicks comments are we gonna get? This is Peeps. Thing, WWE predicted the Eastern Conference Finals literally last year.
Yes. That Halliburton and Jalen Brunson getting in each other's face. Let's see where that goes. Yeah. You sent me a picture in our text thread of them having both of them on a picture standing above Madison Square Garden, and it was made to look like the poster for WrestleMania X7. So yeah, figure.
How do they come up with this stuff, man?
Yes.
Genuinely, I just want to know, because it's like, peeps, to think. You know what would be funny though? If come Wednesday we actually sit there and they go ahead and they make a whole promo package before the game, and it's just literally with My Way, My Limp Bizkit, I will lose it, peeps.
Yes.
I kid you not, I will lose it. But
Jalen Brunson ripping off his T-shirt.
Oh man, talk about it. But in accordance with what Peeps is talking about, this is the exact picture.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Can you just
There you go.
Oh my god, Peeps. Storytelling at its finest.
Yes.
I mean, what can I say? This is great. This is great.
Yes.
Oh man. But you know what? Let's not go ahead and still focus on the Knicks here, ladies and gentlemen. Still want to get to Jadinator Productions question. He says, what do you think will be the ending scenario to Cena versus R-Truth? You want to build Cena as a heel even more? You want to continue this onslaught? You need to have this man beat the holy hell out of R-Truth. Sucks. Yeah. But it has to happen. It genuinely has to happen. And on top of that, from what I'm hearing, it's not even a title match. So,
no, it isn't.
With this being just a match, John Cena needs to whoop this man's ass. Like I said, it sucks for me to say, but it has to happen.
And even worse, a kayfabe injury. It's going to be on NBC. It's going to be on Saturday night's main event. So I don't think we're going to be seeing any blood. Absolutely. But if they were going to do something like that, that would definitely get people on the side of Cena, knowing that Cena's heel turn is legit. Because there was a spot during the press conference after Backlash, which I found quite interesting, and I caught it briefly, was during the entire back and forth between the two. Cena cracked a smile, which he got caught off guard. And it's one of the things that R-Truth is very good at, is catching people off guard and getting them to break character. He's very similar to Sami Zayn in that same light where, let me see if I can get him off. Let me see if I can.
Yeah.
There you go. Just for a brief moment. But yeah, I think that the way that they portray this, the excellent promo interview that they did between Wade Barrett and R-Truth on SmackDown last night, which kind of showed a small idea into the mindset of R-Truth, with R-Truth's reverent humor involved. That's kind of the way they're working that.
Yeah, indeed. And I think it will go ahead and definitely work come, Saturday night's main event. Jadinator also said this. He said maybe R-Truth could have had a little title run in 2011 as a heel, which is something that I genuinely wanted to happen. From the moment that Vince let this man walk out with cigarettes and blew
Yes.
cigarette smoke in John Morrison's face, I
Yes.
sat there and I said, this man needs to go ahead and hold the title. Unfortunately, that it didn't happen at Capital Punishment,
Yes.
but hey, all is well still, right? I mean, look,
I just want to give to those that have only seen R-Truth in the WWE. I want to let people realize that R-Truth is a 2-time
NWA champion.
NWA
about
World
it.
Heavyweight Champion
Talk about it.
in TNA and had one of the best runs in the promotion as a world champion that does not get talked about by a lot of people because people think TNA, NWA, world champion. Yes. R-Truth, when he was Ron the Truth Killings, that's the guy that should show up to face John Cena. Are we gonna get that one? I don't think so.
But you see, you guys talk about Ron the Truth Killings. Me, I knew the man as K-Quick, okay? Let's keep it 50 here. I'm just keeping it real with y'all. K-Quick was where it was at. I won't forget that one time Kurt Angle went ahead and had his whole group of Olympic gold medal buddies backstage, and they're like, hey guys, it's my boy, it's my fellow wrestler K-Quick. These are my boys. And all of them just synchronized, and it was just like, hey K-Quick. And they just start walking away. He's like, so this is what a white Christmas looks like, huh? He just walks away. Oh gosh. But you see, that you know what? Give us K-Quick. That's what I want. Give us a hybrid of K-Quick and Ron the Truth Quilly. If we can get those two at Saturday night's main event, this works. I genuinely think that. But from there, we move to the last question here on Saturday afternoon's main event, and it comes from Long Island Isaiah. He says, not that I feel that he owes anyone anything, but it just feels odd hearing Joey Janela speak on Sabu, but still nothing from Paul Heyman. RIP to Sabu. That's something that kind of caught my attention too. Like I said, not that I don't think that he owes us anything. It's not his place to go ahead and just give the fans a sense of a tribute to the man. But I think with WWE going ahead and adding one in, when of course Sabu wasn't exclusive to WWE, he wasn't a true originator within World Wrestling Entertainment. He was a part of ECW. And that's where a lot of people got their genesis of seeing, Sabu go ahead and wrestle. So I would think that, maybe a tribute from Paul within the next couple of, days or so, knowing that, Sabu's funeral is at the end of the month. I just think that, it would be cool to hear from Heyman. Of course, we've heard from Heyman when it comes to New Jack. We've heard from Heyman numerous amount of times when it comes to other wrestlers. I think that, it would be only right to go ahead and hear from him when it comes to Sabu. That's just me. Not that I feel that he owes him, he owes us anything to go ahead and speak on a man, but, only just feel right. Peeps, do you feel the same way?
I think so, but I'm also trying to remember if there was a falling out between Heyman and Sabu at one point. I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that again. But yeah, I think a lot of people would love to hear from Paul Heyman of his thought process about Sabu, because he is just as synonymous with Sabu as far as describing him and talking about him and bringing up what Sabu can do, what Sabu was to ECW, what Sabu was to the business, and probably what Sabu was to Paul Heyman. So I would love to hear Heyman say something about Sabu, but that's time to come whenever, if it happens. I'm not sure.
Absolutely, if it happens. You're not wrong, peeps. You're not wrong. But look, from there, that marks the end of the questions here on Saturday afternoon's main event. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we appreciate the questions. You want to be a part of the show. You want to send in a question yourself and you want to have it answered, DM us on Instagram at Saturday afternoons _main event. Send in a question, and in the words of the Wrestling God, WWE Hall of Famer JBL, it will be answered on the next episode of the show. Now, with that being said, we move to our last topic today here on Saturday afternoon's main event, and it is our review for last week's Backlash. Of course, we already kind of, got into one of the results being that John Cena retained the WWE title against Randy Orton. We had Dominic Mysterio in a great showing of a match against Penta for the Intercontinental title. I know there is one Uncle Triple C who was probably sitting there running amok across his living room, just being happy.
Greatest Intercontinental champion of all time!
What a champion! What a champion indeed.
I digress.
Oh man, oh man. But a great showing from him. Of course, El Grande Americano stooped himself within the match. I know Uncle Triple is probably sitting there like, "What are you talking about? My monitor went blank, Gorilla." Like, I know that's probably something he's saying to himself. But within that sense, that happened. Becky Lynch lost her match against Lyra Valkyria, which
we need to talk about that. That was the best match of the show. Period. End of story. Full stop.
Nothing to say about that, peeps.
Lyra and Becky tore it down, as far as I'm concerned. And maybe other people think differently. I think that was the best match of the show.
Absolutely, absolutely. Of course, the U.S. title match to begin the show. That was a good way to begin the show. Yes. Still, once more, Jeff Cobb making his debut with the WWE. When it genuinely, a week later, having to, hear Michael Cole call him Jeff Cobb. They go from Jeff Cobb to Jason. I digress.
There you go. I told you there was going to be one of those shows, folks. We're already at 7.
Oh, jeez. But peeps, look, when we talk about, the show, of course, yes. The main event.
Yes.
How did you feel about it? Because I see a lot of people on social media going ahead and losing sleep over it. They're talking about this wasn't, a good match. This wasn't. When I genuinely believe and I feel that this match was better than John Cena's showing at WrestleMania 41. So, peeps, how did you feel about the main event?
I will agree with you on that aspect. It was a better match than the WrestleMania match. It was definitely a better match for Orton because he had a 5-minute squash match with Joe Hendry. But I think looking at it from the standpoint of how they did the match, it was the only way I think, especially the end, that to the people running the pacing of the match and booking the finish, logically, the only way would have kind of made both look strong going in if there was indeed going to be some kind of a rematch. I think they booked this as the last time between these two. It was in St. Louis, so it makes the most sense. And you had literally, it was the Oprah Winfrey of finishes. You get an RKO, you get one. We all get an RKO. That's pretty much what happened. Aldis took one, and he sold it like a champ. Literally everybody from the back got an RKO at the end. Yeah. It was a ref bump. There were RKOs. There was chaos. There was an R-Truth sighting. It was the most chaotic, overbooked ending that we've seen since WrestleMania 40. Yep. So in that sense, I understand what they did. I just did not like the way it ended. But everything about the match going in, I didn't have a problem with. It was actually a pretty good, well-paced match. Orton portrayed as he was the bully towards Cena based on Cena being a bully towards the fans. So I kind of think that's what he was doing.
I agree. When it comes down to it, peeps, knowing that R-Truth isn't going to go ahead and go against them for the WWE title, who is next on your list for John Cena to defend the title against?
If they're going on this whole idea of who should be going after championships, I would love to see Drew McIntyre get back in it somehow. I think CM Punk, even though he's on Raw, I would wonder how they would kind of work that in, knowing he badmouthed Cena about what he did. If you remember, he called him literally every name except the child of God.
Called him a bald fraud, fraud too.
Big bald fraud, yes. So, yeah. So if they want to reinstitute that would work. I think that what we'll find out is whoever comes out of Money in the Bank, maybe that'll kind of show you who's going to get that title shot and who they're going to run with. Because I'm pretty sure Cena is going to go into SummerSlam as champion. Mm-hmm. Who's going to be going after him next? Will it be Cody, who's been off TV for about a month? Who knows?
Yeah, you got a point. Well, look, from that marks the end of our review for Backlash. And ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end for today's show of Saturday afternoon's main event. Look at that, peeps. 55 minutes.
Wow.
Isn't that great?
Yes.
Isn't that great?
We got a tribute. We got the ratings. We got the AEW. We got Hooters. Who cares? We got the Hooters. Yes. Go figure. Where we literally hit everything.
We hit everything. That's great. That's great. Well, look, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we hope you enjoyed today's episode of Saturday Afternoon's Main Event. We will be back next week with the show for you guys, of course, being that we have to go ahead and get to Double or Nothing predictions. And then, of course, peeps, wait. Next week is also Saturday night's main event, right?
Yes.
So 2 predictions for you MFers. How nice!
Yes.
You're the best of both worlds from the 2 of us.
Yes.
And Mr. 401 included.
Yes.
Has been feeling not too good today. Hopefully you're doing good, man. But look,
feel better.
Gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, look. This marks the end of Saturday Afternoon's Main Event. We will see you next week for episode 22. And it is here on Same that I, the phenomenal one.
And I, the Peeps Nate, and of course, our co-host that is not here, Mr. Christopher Morton, where we came.
We saw.
And in the words of the very, very great Paul Heyman, we conquered.
We conquered, ladies and gentlemen. See you next week for episode 22. It's a phenomenal one. It's the Peeps Nate. This was Saturday Afternoon's Main Event. Peace, love, farewell. Extreme.